Well, welcome collectors. I brought you up into my collecting room, and I thought I would show you a special sword that I've had the honor of handling recently. It's a tremendous piece and one of the most important swords made during the Third Reich time. The sword was presented to Obergruppenführer Arthur Seyss-Inquart, who was the Chancellor at the time in Austria. And because of his efforts, he engineered the Anschluss, or the merging of Austria with Germany in 1938, actually March of 1938. And after the Anschluss happened on April 10th, the following month, they had a plebiscite vote, and there were over 99% of the population that voted for this merger. So it was obviously quite an occasion for Germany, and especially for the Fuhrer, because as you all know, the Fuhrer was an Austrian. So it had to be quite a coup for him. And the reason that we're here is I want to show you this sword that was made to commemorate Seyss-Inquart's great success. Now this sword, it's made of all 800 silver mounts, and if you look at the mounts, especially the runes button and the ferrule, the lower ferrule, you'll see that they're much more highly detailed than an ordinary SS Degen. And I'll show you that by comparing it with another Degen. By the way, this Degen was produced by Peter Dan Krebs, and this Degen next to it is a standard SS officer, also produced by Krebs, with the same early vintage trademark. See the difference in how the Seyss-Inquart hilt just jumps? The sword's never been cleaned either, and it has a terrific patina to it. And I'll just slowly flip them over so you can see the back side and so forth. Now the sword is hallmarked 800 on the lower hilt and also on the upper scabbard mount. The scabbard mounts are also 800 silver, and it has the original knot with it, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it looks like a standard SS officer knot, but then when you look at the stuffing, you can see that that is not standard. Normal SS officers' knots have stuffing that matches the strapping. This has a series of brocade in it, which may have had something to do with the importance of the sword. And now the best part of this sword, or Degen I should call it, is the fabulous blade. And what this dedication means, I have to get a piece of paper here. The dedication is to the successful leader of the vote campaign in Germanic Austria in heartfelt friendship, H. Himmler, April 10th, 1938. Just as a brief history, Dr. Seyss-Inquart was appointed the Staatsrat, is what it was called in German, which is state counselor, by the Austrian Chancellor Kurt von Schuschnigg in 1937. And then after a raging Hitler forced von Schuschnigg to lift the bans against Austrian Nazis on 12 February 1938, Seyss-Inquart was appointed the Minister of the Interior. And this enabled Inquart to basically turn the country over to Hitler, and the Anschluss was then completed. So quite a piece of history here if you think about it. This was a major factor in bringing about the Greater Third Reich. So it's quite a piece of history to have a sword that commemorates such an important event. And as a collector myself, which you all know, it's quite an honor for me to be involved with this sword. A man that I know, a fellow collector for about 40 years, has had this sword, never took it apart, never cleaned it, and I've been bugging him for a few years now that he's getting older like me, that maybe it's time to part with it and use some of the money for retirement, and he agreed. So here we are. A fabulous piece of history here, collectors. Well, I figured as long as we're up in my collecting room looking at the Seyss-Inquart sword, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to maybe just give you a couple of views of some of the things that I've managed to collect over the years. It's always been my belief that if you're going to be a collector, you have to display the items, because that's really the only way you can enjoy it yourself, as well as show others what you have. I have this room that was specially made for my collection, and I have to say that every morning when I get up, I come through here and give a little look through, and it always makes me smile and get me ready for the day. So I'll just show you a few things, not really close up, but just so you can get an idea of some of our stuff. These cases above here, as well as the eagle on the top, or on one side of the room. The eagle must have been in a building at one time or another in Germany. It's hand carved, and it actually has more detail when you look up at it than when you look straight at it. So it must have been carved that way. And the eagle covers my Imperial Naval Collection, which runs from the 1840s up to about 1938. And there's a lot of beautiful Damascus pieces and extra cost pieces, and virtually every variation that was made during the time. In the case on the left here, it's mostly the imperial time from the 1860s to about 1918, and in the center cabinet there are some Third Reich daggers. Also mixed in the center is a very beautiful heavy dagger with a Damascus blade, and at the bottom are four miniatures with a naval honor pommel in the middle. I have a bust of the Kaiser in front of things just to set it off. And then in the right case here, some of these naval dirks go back to the 1840s. Those are the ones on the top. And at the bottom is just one of the most beautiful long imperial pieces I've ever seen with a damask blade and gold and blue panels. Very, very beautiful. And then in this lower case are mostly all Third Reich pieces. I have pretty much a very nice representation of all the different dagger types, and there's some beautiful swords in there also. And the case on the other side this case contains a lot of Third Reich really nice pieces, as well as some Damascus naval swords. And at the bottom is mostly interesting essays. When I run across an essay with a checkered grip or a something that's unusual, a hanger, and all this with condition, I kind of stash it because I like essays. Now we've come to the center room, and I have a beautiful period painting. It's kind of a Wagnerian theme with Germania on the right, the fictional German woman, and Bismarck on the left forging the sword of Germany and handing it to her. Great symbolism and a very beautiful painting. And to the right is a Kaiser Prize sword from 1912 with Damascus blade and presentation and still in full mint condition. And to the left is a terrific cavalry officer's sword with a huge grosser size hilt and blade, all in band Damascus. You just can't beat that kind of stuff for looks. All right, on the opposite side of the room, I have one large cabinet that has mostly one-of-a-kind daggers that I've chosen to keep over the years. I like to maybe add one or two pieces every year where I can, but there's a great assemblage of wonderful things, and my chained SS is up at the top with a mint-conditioned broom handle. They're nasty looking guns, but I always thought they were so terrific. And a couple of nice officer, well, not officer, it's an NCO SS on the right and an Army cap on the right and the left, vice versa. And some SS daggers, a naval U9, and a fantastic Army dagger with a gilt and blue dedication with ivory grip. Some more SS daggers and a wonderful presented SS cigar box. And on the lower portion, I like cigarette cases, so I've got a lot of those, and most of them are all dedicated. And then in the center, some fine imperial helmets, and of course you got to have a diplomat and a government official. And in the center cabinet is an Eichhorn full room and a Himmler SS and a small A logo SA dagger, and some more bric-a-brac with swords in the lower cabinet. SS officer, and there's a DLV officer below it, a very, very rare sword. And in the far cabinet, another government official and a couple of dedicated hunting pieces, some Damascus naval daggers, a couple of chained NSKKs, the one on the right being a Marine, and then below a couple of really great naval daggers. And at the bottom is my pair of Goering boots and other related Goering things there. All very interesting. Then on this side of the room, I have a neat cabinet that houses my chained SA high leader. And on the opposite side of it is an honor dagger that was given to Wilhelm Bruckner, Hitler's SA adjutant. And in the back is a signed photo with the original frame of the Kaiser, and below some really fantastic cigarette cases and watches. The cigarette case in the back is signed by the Red Baron Richthofen, and the watch on the right was presented to Richthofen's wingman Kurt Wolff when he won the Pour le Mérite. The case in the front has the cipher of Kaiser Wilhelm, and the cap below is a Gauleiter in choice condition. But that just gives you a little bit of a view of what I try to do in my life, and I hope that you collectors also will try to do what you can when you display things, even if it's only 2 or 3 daggers or 4 or 5 medals. It's still something that you and your friends and anyone that you want to show in the house can enjoy. You can't see it if it's in a safe deposit box or in your vault someplace or in a sock. So to me, it's worth it to have all the things on display. I really enjoy it. Thanks for looking.